Hello, and welcome to The Source, CareerSource Broward's podcast, where we dive into all things workforce development and employer engagement right here in Broward County. I'm your host today, Yushika Florence, the Manager of Youth Programs and Services here at CareerSource Broward. Today's episode is especially for young people or anyone who's looking for a real alternative to college. Maybe you want a career that pays well, lets you work with your hands, and gives you skills you can use for life. If that sounds like you, you're in the right place. We're joined by two incredible guests from the Florida East Coast Electrical Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committee, or JATC. First, we have Rick Shawbell, Training Director and also a member of CareerSource Broward's board. And alongside him is one of JATC's instructors, Blake Kanarek, who actually developed in his career through an apprenticeship. Together, they're shaping the next generation of electricians, and they're here to share what the electrical trade can offer you. Welcome, Rick and Blake. Rick, I'd love to start with you. So, how did you first discover the electrical trade? Was it something you planned, or did you find it along the way?
Thank you, Yushika. After high school, I didn't have much direction, didn't have the grade nor the money to go to college. So I joined the U.S. Navy in hopes of getting some GI Bill money and going to college afterwards. I went to Palm Beach State College for a short time before I found apprenticeship. I was an electrician in the Navy, and my soon to be father in law had told me about joining an apprenticeship. So I joined the apprenticeship, and the rest is history.
Good, nice to hear. And now to you, Blake. What was your apprenticeship experience like, and how did it influence your career path?
Thank you for having me. My apprenticeship experience was very unique. I my apprenticeship was during COVID, towards the beginning of it. So it was a little bit rough going at the start, but aside from that challenge, it was overall a great experience that I highly appreciate. And I learned best from working with my hands and seeing things. So this apprenticeship program really helps with that in terms of
Wow.
how I learn.
Right. Wow, that indeed was a rough start during the pandemic. Thank you both for sharing your entry into the field. So, Rick, you've actually gone from working in the field to leading the entire training program. What led you from the field to becoming the training director at the Florida East Coast Electrical JATC?
When I graduated from apprenticeship, there they were still in the night school format, going to school Tuesdays and Thursday evenings, and I thought it would be an interesting place to join to become an instructor. At first, I was an instructor part time in for 3 years. Still worked in the field. Our JATC went to a full time day school in 2005, and I was invited to be one of the full time staff members at that point. I realized pretty quickly that what I thought might just be a part time job working with apprentices turned into a lifelong passion. The fact that I am able to interact with applicants and apprentices throughout the whole process, and then having them join me at graduation with their families is an amazing experience. So I'm very lucky to be in the position that I'm in.
So, over the years, how have you seen the program evolve since you first became involved?
As I mentioned, we went from a night school format to a full time day school. That in itself was quite a change. Night school is challenging with our jurisdiction as widespread as it is. We had people that were over an hour away from our training center, so evenings were quite complicated. Moving into the day school format is a much better learning environment, and the fact that our apprentices get paid for that 8 hour day in school is amazing.
Wow, that's good to hear. I'm sure it must have been inspiring to see the evolution of the program from its inception over the years. So, Blake, now that we've learned a little bit from Rick about his transformation and evolution, what actually inspired you to move from being an apprentice in the field to becoming an instructor?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that. Before I joined the apprenticeship, I initially went to college for a period of time to become a teacher. So I actually
Mm.
always did want to do this. My father actually coaches martial arts, and I used to help alongside that, teaching kids. Tutored in high school and college in math. So, learning and helping others learn is something I've always liked to do. It just comes naturally for me.
Okay, but that seems like that was a very natural progression for you. So now for both of you, what would you say you enjoy most about helping train the next generation of electricians?
I think that it is very rewarding to see people come in with very little knowledge of the electrical field, watching them progress, and then becoming a journeyman wireman and being a small part of that in itself is the most enjoyable thing for me. Also, the evolution of technology in our trade as an electrician is something that keeps us on our toes on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, for me, having been one of those people that came in green and didn't really know much, uh, I actually and now on the flip side of that, seeing students, come in, hold a bender for the first time, wire something up for the first time, and seeing them make all the same mistakes that I did, and it's surreal kind of seeing that, and for me, having them grow in front of me and eventually surpass me, hopefully, is wonderful to see.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say just to observe and sit back and watch someone who's completely new to the industry come in and just watch as they learn. So, Blake, what would you suggest for someone who's unfamiliar with electrical apprenticeships? How would you describe their importance in this trade?
Well, everybody's got a role on the job site. Just because you don't know a lot doesn't mean that you can't be helpful.
Mm,
Having the initiative to do something and to just pick up and learn as you go is one of the biggest strengths of being in an apprenticeship because you get to work alongside experienced, skilled journeymen and they'll show you the way. So as far as not having the skill that comes with time, but just having the right attitude and coming in with the mindset of learning is really all you need to thrive.
okay, that's a really important mindset can help you, and not just in this trade, but in anything in life, right?
That's right.
So, for both of you, what would you say makes the JATC model so effective for preparing highly skilled, safety-focused electricians?
The Earn as you learn portion of our program, where the students go to school and also work full time for one of our contractors in the field, is an incredible way of learning the trade. I don't believe that anyone can be taught how to be an electrician purely in the classroom. So, our hands on labs here at the school and then the OJT on the job training experience that they get is invaluable in forming them as an electrician.
Yeah, when it comes to the apprenticeship, it's very unique in that fashion. College, you kind of just sit in a classroom and you kind of go out into the real world, hope that you get the job, that you get the degree in, and you come to find out you don't actually know how to do it. So in the apprenticeship, you actually kind of get that real, hands-on experience. You actually get to see your work and actually appreciate it. And you actually kind of see your own growth via time too. Something that used to be challenging, now you do every day, no problem. It's really unique in that fashion, and I think a lot of people would appreciate that.
Right, I'd have to agree with you both. It's a unique model that's actually efficient, right? So it's helping the apprentices actually learn valuable skills that they can actually apply in their role or job as an electrician in their journey. So, Rick, from your perspective, how do apprenticeships help contractors build a stronger and more reliable workforce?
One of the things that we focus on as a beginning point for apprentices, like mentioned, skill and knowledge, we can impart those, through the training program. It's attitude that really makes a big difference. the one main focus that we start and try to instill apprentices with is the your number one ability is your availability. So having someone that is there for giving the contractor 8 hours work for 8 hours pay is very valuable. The It's a valuable experience for both sides. Not only is the contractor getting a skilled and trained workforce, but the apprentices are getting that same safety training and skilled mentorship in the field.
Okay, I want to shift gears for a moment and Blake, go back to something that you mentioned earlier about traditional college, models and settings, right? So, Blake, what advice would you give a young person deciding on a career path who has no interest in going to college?
Well, in anything you do, no matter what you do, you're going to have to be the best of the best and learn all the ins and outs of what you're going to be doing in order to be competitive. For people like me, like college didn't really suit me much, and I didn't really see the point in accumulating a lot of college debt. And you're not even guaranteed to get the job anyways after the degree. I highly recommend an apprenticeship program because you actually get to work the job that you're training to be in. So you actually know right away whether or not this is something you want to do, and you actually get the experience while getting the knowledge at the same time via the classroom and on the job training.
That's good advice. So, along those same lines, Blake, what qualities would help someone thrive in an electrical apprenticeship?
I always believe that consistency is key. You know, if you're the type of person who's going to show up every day and have a willingness to learn and actually give forth a genuine effort, you can make a long-lasting career not only in this field, but pretty much any trade.
That's common sense, no nonsense advice. And then lastly, what should a new apprentice expect when they enter the program?
You know, whether it's putting in lights or receptacles, running conduit, mounting transformers, you name it, you know, you're going to have to expect to be challenged to become knowledgeable and reliable and professional electricians.
And Rick, why is now such a strong moment for someone to consider the electrical field as a career?
As we all have seen in the news, AI has become a driving force in business now. To consider the electrical field, you are sidestepping that. AI will only enhance and make our trade easier, better, and safer as time goes on. These are also careers that are never going to be outsourced either. So, the demand is very high right now. We have a aging workforce too that needs replacement, myself included in that. And with the opportunity that arises in the diversity of work, it is a great place to start a career. It's something that hasn't always been considered as a top choice for people and families. But I think since the pandemic, families have been making a lot more choices based on individual research, as Blake had mentioned, on what would suit them. Just going to school, going to college, accumulating debt to get out and possibly start an entry level job in your field of study is one path, but to work and go to school and be trained in a career in the trades is going to serve you very well for the long term.
Okay, good. So we've talked a bit about, what the perspective is like for an apprentice. But Rick, I'm curious from the employer perspective, what are the biggest advantages of partnering with the JATC or hiring apprentices?
Our employer group, the National Electrical Contractors Association of South Florida, is a joint sponsor of our program. So they pay a portion of their payroll into our training fund, whether they employ apprentices or not. So in turn, we provide them with skilled and trained labor. As has been mentioned, one of the first things that we try to impart on the apprentices is the safety training and making sure that when they step on the job that they are going to consider the safest route to the work process. That portion in itself is very valuable. having to the contractors, having a pipeline of available labor is something that they thrive on as well.
Right. So if an employer is curious about getting involved, what's the first step they can take?
They can reach out directly to myself. I can point them in the right direction, but the proper path would be to contact the National Electrical Contractors Association of South Florida through their website.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that very important information for employers who may be curious about exploring this apprenticeship option. So now I want to segue into real life stories or impact stories. And I love hearing about real life stories and how programs have really changed or transformed people's lives. So for the both of you, is there a particular apprentice success story that stands out to you? Maybe someone who came in unsure about their future and really found their path?
Yeah, so I actually had an apprentice where when he initially joined, actually came from a different trade. He came from being a carpenter, and unfortunately, at the time, they kind of dried up at work. So he said, "Well, let me get into a similar field. Let me see how electricians go." And when he first started, same learning curves as everybody else, which he wasn't expecting because he thought that those years of carpentry experience were going to set him apart and put him ahead. So he had the same struggles as everybody else, but he learned. And part of his apprenticeship, unfortunately, his mother had gotten cancer, so he had to leave work and come, make up time and all that just to take care of her. And she wasn't able to work anymore. So for a long time, he struggled, but he ended up topping out. He ended up being, quality journeyman electrician, and he's still working today.
Wow, that's an inspiring story just to show people how you don't have to spend all of your time in one industry. If things start to fizzle out there, there's always opportunities in other sectors. Rick, do you have any stories you'd like to share?
Yeah, thank you very much for asking. I would like to point out a couple of graduations ago, we had a group of women. We had four women in the class that graduated. That to me was quite the accomplishment. All four of them were very studious and had the highest grades in their class. One, of course, was elected as our Apprentice of the Year. She was also brought to our National Training Institute for a week long outstanding apprentice graduate leadership training. So, just to let people know that this isn't just a trade for men, it's also for women too. We have quite the opportunity for someone to grow and expand their experiences by applying to apprenticeship program. I believe we still have five women going through the program right now, and it's just something that I'd like to point out that this is a trade for everyone.
That's encouraging to hear. So, before we wrap up today, I'd like to ask you both, what keeps you motivated in this work? What keeps you going?
My answer is very simple, and some would consider selfish. I enjoy the fact that I'm able to participate in helping someone with a better future and being able to share that with them and their families along the way is an incredible, heartwarming experience.
Yeah, for me, whether it was me being out in the field and helping somebody have their lights get turned on or making sure their AC was working, or how it is for me now in the classroom and imparting knowledge onto them, and hopefully they're able to do the same things. Uh, the same motivation there. It's having a positive impact on people's lives and helping them.
People took good care of me when I was coming up through the trade, as Blake had said earlier, and I just want to make sure that I pay that forward. And one of the things that we say in our field is one of the main jobs of journeyman wireman is to train their replacement, which is the apprentice, and giving them an opportunity to grow and to evolve in the trade.
That's such a great principle, paying it forward. I love to hear that. It's very inspiring. And finally, so if listeners remember just one thing from today's conversation, what do you both think it should be?
For me, I would say if you're a hardworking person that has a willingness to learn, and wants some real hands-on experience, the JATC, or Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committee, is a perfect place to come and get your hands dirty.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. That's a wonderful statement. Um, the takeaway I would have to bring up would be that there is an opportunity for someone who is looking for something outside of the box. If you're not necessarily happy or comfortable where you're at the moment, you can always look into this. There's plenty of a day in the life of a apprentice electrician videos available out there. Check with your local CareerSource office. They have tons of information about not just our trade, but other trades in the building trades. And just the takeaway would be that this is an opportunity that is available for everyone as long as you're ready to put in some hard work.
Thank you both for sharing your stories and your insight. And to our listeners, if you are exploring your future and college just doesn't feel like the right fit, remember, there are powerful, hands-on career paths out there that can actually change your life. And apprenticeships are one of them. CareerSource Broward can help you find them. Go to our website at careersourcebroward.com to look for more opportunities. Thanks for tuning in to the Source Podcast, and we'll see you next time.